What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Awesemo Fantasy Football YouTube channel, talking draft prospects in the 2022 class. Ahead of this upcoming draft, giving you everything you need to know about the skill position players for Dynasty, redraft, basketball, you name it, and we have it. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We're also brought to you today by Underdog Fantasy, best known for their best ball drafts, but that's not the only thing they do. Underdog has plenty of other contests for you to compete in, including live draft contests and pick'ems where you can make up to 20 extra entry fee. If you use the promo code AWESEMO, you're going to get a first match deposit up to $100, and that's the best way to take advantage of everything Underdog Fantasy has to offer. So make sure to check them out. Diving into today's video, we just did Treylon Burks, and we're going to continue the wide receiver position with USC's Drake London. A little bit of an incomplete evaluation at this point, and that is because Drake London did suffer a season-ending ankle fracture in week 8 of the college football season. However, we do have some numbers for London. He's a big-bodied receiver, 6'4", 219 pounds. He is not even 21 years old yet, so he is one of the younger prospects in this class, but still, the ankle fracture is limiting him. Could not test at the combine, and actually just had to move back his NFL Pro Day. So we'll see if we get testing numbers from London. I'm not really about his athleticism. There's some pretty ridiculous things he can do, but hopefully we can get those numbers. Diving into London as the prospect, he's a former 4-star recruit, the number 35 wide receiver in the 2019 class. He's also an in-state kid coming out of Cali, but this kid was also recruited to play basketball. He was on the USC basketball team. He decided to give it up, stick with football, and ultimately that's been a good decision for him, projected first round pick here. But let's dive into some of the numbers with USC receiver Drake London. In his final year of school, this guy absolutely erupted. 88 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, and that's all in 8 games played. In the games Drake London actually appeared, he had a 37.1% target share, most of that coming on the boundary. In 2021, he only played 12.6% of his snaps in the slot. However, there's a lot to dig in with Drake London coming out of what has essentially become wide receiver U in the last couple of years. Drake London's a guy that played in his freshman season with both Michael Pittman and Amon-Ra St. Brown. In that year, he was still able to put up 39 catches over 500 yards. In 2020, USC, they played the shortened season because of COVID, but he still had 33 receptions, 502 yards. Another year where Amon-Ra St. Brown is also sharing the field with London. Seeing him put up these numbers at an extremely young age, despite having other productive receivers in the lineup alongside him, is very telling for London, not to mention his background as an elite athlete playing basketball for the Trojans as well. Diving into some of the offensive schematics for USC, at the time, Clay Helton was the head coach. Graham Harrell was the offensive coordinator. These two ended up getting fired in London's final season with USC. But overall, this is a very pass-heavy offense. They were top 10 in pass rate in each of the last 2 seasons. They were top 20 in plays per game in each of the last 2 seasons. Part of that being, especially in 2021, USC not the greatest team, underachieving and taking a lot of losses in that span. But when you dive into competition, Drake London is a guy that's producing in even some of the biggest matchups. Specifically in 2021, we see him over 100 yards against some of the better teams in this conference and non-conference. They played Notre Dame. He had 171 yards there. Played Utah, 16 catches for 162 yards there. This is a guy that's performing at the highest level against the best competition he faced on the roster. Now, Drake London is a little bit of a tricky evaluation here. A lot of people will call him a contested catch receiver, and he's very good in that area, but that's not all he does. Throughout his career, he's moved in and out of the slot, partially because other productive receivers like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman were alongside him in the offense, but he's played everywhere in the formation. He never played special teams, but seeing him with that basketball background tells us a lot about his athleticism. And then in 2021, rather than seeing the ball pushed downfield, as the only receiver with really an NFL pedigree in the offense, Drake London saw 64.7% of his targets at or behind the line of scrimmage. That shows that he's not just a contested catch receiver. This is a player that USC trusted to get the ball and make players miss after the catch. Hence, the high target rate right around the line of scrimmage and within 10 yards. When we look at yards per route run, he's at 3.52. That ranks third in the class behind only Treylon Burks and Kentucky's Wan'Dale Robinson. Now, the fractured ankle is a big question mark, still limiting him. Still no pro day, but overall, what Drake London put on the field makes him among the top receivers in this class. Bringing you back to his size profile for a second here, we'll talk some comps. This is a very productive style of receiver, especially when you start adding in some of the speed. When we get to the mid 4.5s and the low 4.5s, some of the player comparisons for Drake London end up being T. Higgins, Mike Williams, Kenny Golladay, even his old teammate Michael Pittman. These are all players that pop when you give Drake London the requisite athletic numbers. Now, the first thing that stands out here is you have a lot of X boundary receivers with T. Higgins, Mike Williams, but there is a little bit of Kenny Golladay to his game where this is a player that can make other defenders miss even around the line of scrimmage, and we saw that early in his career with USC and this past year, where over 60% of his catches came within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. Now, at the next level, Drake London's been mocked all over the first round. It appears a wide receiver needy team is probably going to poach London early in this draft. There's a lot of potential fits here and teams that are looking for a receiver. A couple that stand out, the New York Jets, who have multiple first-round picks. They're apparently still trying to find receiver help in this draft after missing out on Tyreek Hill. Now, Drake London, not the same player as Tyreek Hill, but they already have Elijah Moore potentially playing the slot. They've made some other signings here. Drake London could potentially be a fit for them on the boundary. Ultimately, do not see Drake London slipping out of the first round, and there's the potential for him to be drafted in the first half of this round. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Drake London, where you think he's going to be drafted, and who might pick him. I am Matt Gajewski on Twitter at Matt_Gajewski. We will catch you later this week with more draft prospects. Thank you again for watching.